We're back. Welcome to Faith 234. We took a break for a while after we did the Book of Mormon, but we decided to come back and share our insights, our testimonies based on the conference talks. So we thought we'd do one conference talk a week with the general authorities. This week we're starting with Elder Kearon because that's what we were studying today in our ward. So we decided to start with him. And what a great that's a great choice to go with. So his talk, so this is conference talk from April 26, 2026. And his talk was about his business. So it was the one where he talked about clerks and clerks. So,
yeah.
All right. So Lisa, what impressed you? What thoughts you have on his talk?
One of the first things that I really liked about his talk is he was saying when he was called to his first calling, how his bishop had prayed about him, and that affected him, and received the calling, and his first thought was, well, that's not me, that's not my strengths, but was still willing to learn whatever it took. And when he was set apart, he looked around and the ward was smiling at him, raising their hands, and he felt like everyone was cheering him on. And I think that's a big deal, that we need to be lifting people in their callings and helping them, encouraging them, because, we're all volunteers, and sometimes it's hard.
And how did you feel when you were called to be Stake Young Women's President?
Stake Young Women's President was very intimidating. I think the most intimidating calling I've ever received, though, was seminary. And I was really scared to do that, but still willing and excited, and that took a lot of faith and a lot of prayers.
And I was really impressed with how she handled both of those callings. They were the Stake Young Women's President was when they had the dedication of the Indianapolis Temple, and they did a trek that summer, so there was a lot of extra activities because the youth was involved in the ceremony for the temple dedication the night before. And then, of course, church takes a lot of work, but then with seminary, just working full time and doing that. Sometimes I didn't think she'd make it through Friday by the time she got there, but she always did. So, the things that I liked is one when he talked about working through imperfect saints, and I think we realize that nobody's perfect in their calling, but I think too we need to remember imperfections when we're looking or maybe are tempted to criticize or judge people in their callings. So we just have to remember that they're doing the best they can. So in our current calling, we feel that way a lot, that we're helping out with housing. The main couple, the Stansfields, who are over all the housing, they've only been out here, or they only started maybe 4 months before we did, 3 months. Actually the housing stuff, even less than that, because they were YSA before. But anyway, talking to them and being trained, it's like, well, the Lord's going to take care of it anyway. We just do the best we can, and it's going to work out. And we haven't had any missionaries die in their apartments or anything. So I guess it has been worked, and it really has. It's just kind of impressive how things come together, even though it's kind of chaotic. So, we're imperfect in what we're doing, but it gets done. So,
and it is the Lord's work. So, this talk was about being about the Lord's business. And I think, we've heard President Nelson talk about how the Lord loves effort. And, if we're in there, we're doing our best and we're putting forth the effort, then, angels step in and help us and make sure that the work gets done.
Yeah. And I also liked how he talked about how it's not where we serve, but how. And it made me think of the Lamanites who converted with Ammon, and how they didn't want to fight in the wars, but they offered to raise crops and make clothes or whatever to support the Nephites. And then when the war chapters came along, how critical it was for those armies, Moroni and Helaman and others, to have that support. Even though you don't it wasn't talked about very much, but behind the scenes, that was critical. And when those supplies weren't able to get to them, they really suffered. And it wasn't because of uh, uh, the Ammonites or the converted Lamanites that were able to supply them. It was the government. But anyway, just those behind the scenes small jobs, I came to appreciate that a lot as bishop. Just people showing up and doing their jobs. If it's chorister or teaching, whatever, just you really appreciate that. So, and now in housing, we're kind of in that same boat. It's not like, well, tell them what you thought about when.
Well, when we first talked about, wanting to help with the missionaries or be part of the missionary effort, in my mind, I was thinking, oh, we'll get to go out with them and teach and, be a part of it in that way. But we were asked to be over housing instead. And, you think about, it doesn't seem like as spiritual of a calling, but when you look at these missionaries and they have these needs, and if there's somebody that can step in and take care of it, then that gives them more time and opportunity to go out and teach. So in the long run, I feel like we are being a benefit to the missionaries themselves, as well as the mission president, and just kind of doing our parts.
Yeah, it is kind of definitely behind the scenes, but we were just helping the sister missionaries out. A couple of days ago, we dropped off something to them. I can't remember what they needed, but anyway, they just said, "Oh, when we talk to the other missionaries and your name comes up, everybody likes you guys. They love the Emmets." And I thought, well, that's because we bring you guys stuff.
Yeah, let's talk to Lauren.
Yeah,
I need a new shower curtain.
Okay, we'll bring you that.
We don't have pots and pans.
Yeah, need a rice cooker or whatever. We bring it to them. So yeah, of course they like us. But it is nice though when you do drop stuff off. They're very appreciative. They're very thankful, and it's just kind of fun to meet with them. And we have been able to work with the missionaries a little bit along the way, which is good. So hopefully we can kind of do more of that down the road. But it goes back to Kearon's talk about just how it's not really where we serve, but how. And as long as we're doing it out of love for the Lord, love for His gospel, His church, that's what's important. So, and at the end, he says, every calling, whatever it may be, is His business. So, and I think we both have testimonies of that any calling, no matter how small, is important. So, and any calling, no matter how uncomfortable, can be overcome or managed or accomplished. So.
Yeah, and we've been taught all along, who the Lord calls, the Lord qualifies. So if we're given a calling and we're scared to death of it, like teaching seminary or being bishop or whatever, we know that if we turn to the Lord and we put forth what effort that we can, that His work will be accomplished. It's His work. He just wants us to help and be involved.
Yep. So it's our choice. It's our attitude that makes a difference. Even though he does mention if we have a bad attitude about our calling, it's still better to try to do it than not. Although there are circumstances where sometimes callings may not be appropriate at a certain time for people, but sometimes it's better just to get it, suck it up and get it out, just endure. So,
yeah. And sometimes you will get your dream calling. I have been able to play the piano in primary several times, which is my favorite calling in the church, and I'm always grateful when I get to do that. But I will also be willing to do the uncomfortable ones if needed. So
she definitely has done that. So, and then the very last line, he says, life is better, everything is better when we are about His business. And maybe that's why we felt like coming to Alabama was a good idea. I don't know, or why we were willing to do that. Not that we weren't serving in Utah and we had plenty of opportunities to serve, but I just think maybe we feel a little bit more engaged. Even though the callings we had back in Midway were important, but I don't know.
I think the fact that when we were called, it was an immediate need, and we felt like the Lord brought us here at the right time, so we were in the right place and prepared to step in and fill that need.
Yeah, for the record, we moved down in December. Took us a couple months to get settled because we had to buy all new furniture and get the utilities and everything. And then in end of January, early February, missionaries came by. They were on exchanges, so we didn't know one of the missionaries, but we got talking and just mentioned about, yeah, I would like to serve a mission and what the opportunities might be, whether it's, go to Seattle and serve under the Gadberries or maybe find something here to do. And it turns out the other missionary who was on exchanges was one of the assistants. He goes back and tells the mission president, President Gallen of the Birmingham mission. And a couple of days later, he calls us and invites us and says, "Hey, we got a big need. Our missionary couple that's over apartments is going home in a month, and we have another couple that can do it, but it's a long mission, long state. It's a lot of service. It sure be great if we had you guys to help out with the northern half of the mission, northern third, and yeah, a few weeks later, we were not that. Anyway, right away, we were called to action. Even before we got name tags, we were, so.
Yeah, we went in, we talked to the bishop, scheduled a stake president's interview for that week. And when we went in, he said, we're ready to set you apart because they need you there.
Yeah.
They're losing their people in 3 weeks.
We thought we were just going to be interviewed, but now he just said, I don't think I need to interview you. I don't know who you talked to, but anyway, he said, I've contacted some people. I don't think I need to interview you. We're just going to set you apart and turn you loose. Put you to work. So, yeah. So yeah, we were needed here. So, but anyway, and it's been good. And so this talk, I think, really has resonated with us, our past experiences, our current experience, and really just going about his business with the right intent, and with patience and with love. Life is always better when you do that.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Grateful for Elder Kearon and the apostles and President Oaks and all that they do, and that we can support and sustain them.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll continue to do this. So next week, I don't know. My original thought was just to do the conference talks in order of seniority, do President Oaks, and then on down. But we thought we'd do Elder Kearon since we covered him in Relief Society and Elders Quorum today. So maybe we'll go back to Elder Oaks and then just do the rest in seniority, or I don't know how we'll do it. But we're going to be consistent, do this once a week up until the next conference in October. Then we'll do those talks. And if we get done with the general authorities before conference, we'll sneak in a few of the other good talks that were part of conference. So we'll see how it goes. So.
Yep.
All right.
Love you guys.
You want to sign off?
Keep the faith.
And keep the commandments.